Kwa jina naitwa Ngartia. Ninayo heshima kubwa, direct translation, a great honor, ya kukaa hapa na kuzungumza na mwalimu ambaye kwangu namjua kwa pande nyingi. Kwanza kuna kitabu ambacho tumekuja kukizungumzia hapa, ni tamthilia ambayo niliifanya shule ya upili na kidato cha 4 kwa hivyo kama si mwalimu singepita Kiswahili. Lakini sasa naweza simama na niulize, mwalimu wa Kiswahili hapa ni wapi? Jambo la pili, mimi ni kijana wa kutoka Meru. Nimetoka mahali kunaitwa Mitongo. Na mzee hapa ni mzee karibu awe mzee wa kijiji. Si wa kijiji lakini ni mzee wa eneo letu. Kwa hivyo najua kuna watu wanatazama kutoka nyumbani na nisipoongea vizuri sitaweza kwenda kule Krismasi. Kwa hivyo ukisikia niko Nairobi December, mnipe chakula. Na kwa tatu, kazi ambayo naifanya katika sanaa, mimi pia ni mwandishi, mwigizaji. Sana inaegemea upande wa maswala ambayo yanawahusu Wakenya na wananchi na mambo kama hayo, sana historia. Product placement. Nina kikundi ambacho kinaitwa Too Early for Birds. Tunafanya tamthilia na michezo ya kuigiza kutoka historia ya Kenya. Kazi ambayo ninaifanya, nimefika hapo kwa kuangalia watu ambao wamekuwa wakifanya kazi mbele yetu, na mmoja hao watu ni mwalimu Kithaka wa Mberia. Kwa hivyo nisaidieni kwa kumkaribisha kwa makofi ya kilo. Ni mwalimu anaelewa makofi ya kilo ya Moi. Tukumbuke yale ya Moi kwa sababu tuko kwenye maandamano. Haya, 1 2 3. Twende tena. Mwisho. Fungua. Sorry for the trauma. Sasa tunaweza anza. Mwalimu.
Naam.
Hujambo?
Sijambo.
Wamekupa chai huku? Naona wamekupa maji. Uko salama?
Niko salama.
Nina maswali machache. Kwa hivyo tutapitia maswali matano. Maswali matano alafu tutakaribisha matatu kutoka kwa sijui audience wanaitwaje kwa Kiswahili.
Naam.
Audience wanaitwaje kwa Kiswahili?
Hadhara.
Si wapenzi watazamaji, please relax. Alafu baada ya maswali hao matatu tutakamilisha na maswali mawili. And for those of us present who do not speak the national language, the first section was, you don't worry, that's an inside joke, but you're good. Now we're getting into the actual part of the conversation, and what the brief was. We're going to do it in 3 sections. The first one will be just a conversation between us. It's mostly I'll ask the questions and then Professor Kithaka wa Mberia will answer them. And then after the 5th question, we will welcome 3 questions from the audience. So start thinking about them. Questions, not mine is just a comment. Questions. For the comments, we shall see Prof outside. His books are available for sale here, but he'll be signing them at the tent later on. So for comments, tupatane huko. Here are the 3 questions. And then after that, we'll close with 2 questions. Is it clear? To him. All right. So, kwa sababu NBO Litfest hawajanipa mtafsiri, I'll have to do both jobs. I'll ask the questions in Kiswahili and translate them in English, and then we'll have the conversation. But we're opening the space for all languages. On stage, we have Kiswahili, English, Kikuyu, Kimeru, and Sheng. And in the room, we have others, so we can crowdsource and translate, all right? All right, so swali la kwanza mwalimu.
Ndio.
Tauliza kwa Kiswahili tena ni tafsiri.
Okay.
Ilifikaje kijana kutoka Tharaka akawa mwandishi wa tamthilia? And the question is, how did we get to a point where a young person from Tharaka, where we're from, became a playwright?
Hilo ni swali gumu. Labda nauliza kwa nini ilikuwa vipi mtu kutoka Tharaka akaandika kwa Kiswahili? Maanake kutoka eneo lolote lile mtu anaweza kuandika kazi ya sanaa, riwaya, tamthilia, mashairi, tawasifu, wasifu na kadhalika. bila shaka kama wanafunzi wengine katika nchi hii nilifunzwa Kiswahili katika shule ya msingi na upili na chuo kikuu, na nilikuwa mwanafunzi mwenye hamu sana. Maana haitoshi tu kuwa unafunzwa, lazima pia unakipenda kitu, lazima una hamu. Kwa hivyo nilifunza Kiswahili na nikawa nakipenda sana. Na katika shule pia unajua fasihi iko katika shule zote za upili. Kwa hivyo nafikiria niliangalia mchezo wa kwanza nikiwa shule ya upili, labda nikiwa kidato cha 3 au cha pili, A Man of the People. Na baadhi ya vitabu ambavyo tulisoma shuleni vilikuwa tamthilia. Kwa mfano nilisoma Kong's Harvest. Kong's Harvest ya Soyinka ndicho kitabu ambacho kilikuwa cha kutainiwa nilipokuwa kidato cha 4. Na baada hapo nilipoenda kidato cha 5 nilichukua karatasi moja tu ya fasihi ambayo ilikuwa ni ushairi. Lakini nilisoma tamthilia za Kiswahili ikiwa ni pamoja na Mashetani na pia nafikiria Mayopari wa Venice ya Shakespeare. Na chuoni pia nikasoma baadhi ya tamthilia, lakini kwa hakika nilipoanza kuandika mimi nilianza ushairi. Maana yake nilianza kuandika ushairi nikiwa kidato cha 2 au cha 3. Nikaandika shairi moja ambalo sina nakala hivi sasa, lakini nalipenda sana, ikiitwa The Bell. The Bell maana yake niligundua kwamba hakuna kifaa ambacho kina uwezo katika mfumo wote wa elimu isipokuwa kengele. Wajua, tukiwa kidato cha 1, cha 2, tulikuwa tunaona njaa sana. Lakini huwezi kugusa chakula mpaka kengele ipiwe. Tulikuwa tunaenda tuna banana katika jengo la kulia chakula, lakini huwezi kabisa kula chakula mpaka kengele ipiwe. Asubuhi tulikuwa tunakunywa uji, tulikuwa tunapewa uji, na ukiingia katika darasa maana yake kibofu kinakujaa kabisa, kinajaa kweli kweli, lakini huwezi kutoka mpaka hiyo kipindi imalizike. Ni baadaye nikiwa mwalimu wa chuo kikuu, ambapo maana yake sijui kama amewaambia tayari mimi nafanya kibarua, mimi ni mwalimu katika chuo kikuu. Nikiwa katika chuo kikuu ndipo nikaanza kuandika tamthilia. Lakini nilianza kuandika tamthilia baada ya kusoma tamthilia nyingi sana na kuangalia michezo kwa lugha mbalimbali. Maana yake mimi naangalia michezo kwa lugha mbalimbali. Niangalia mchezo wa Kiingereza hapa Kenya, niangalia mchezo wa Kiingereza Marekani ambako hata nimewahi kufundisha, nimeangalia mchezo wa Kichina Beijing kwa Kichina, nimeangalia mchezo wa Kipolandi kwa lugha ya Kipolandi Poland, nimeangalia mchezo Korea. Sasa huku kuangalia michezo mingi na kusoma michezo mingi na kuangalia michezo mingine, hapa Nairobi nimeangalia kwa Kiingereza, kwa Kikamba, Kansala na nini, kwa Toluo, kwa Kikuyu, Mofokoti na nini. Jambo ambalo linanisaidia sio tu linasaidia katika kuandika kwa sababu ya kuelewa mambo ya theater. Maana yake ikiwa unaandika michezo ya kuigiza ni muhimu sana kuelewa theater inavyofanya kazi. Kwa hivyo mimi nikiandika, wale ambao mmesoma michezo yangu, naandika tayari nikitilia uigizaji jukwani maanani. Yale maagizo nikitoa. Kwa hivyo nikiandika naona itakuwa vipi nikisema mhusika huyu anatoka upande huu au anatoka upande ule, au nikisema huyu amevaa vazi hili na nini, ni kwamba naelewa nyuma jukwani huku nyuma kunatendeka nini. Kwa mfano siwezi kukuambia ubadilishe yale mavazi kwa namna ambayo haiwezekani, jambo ambalo baadhi ya watu wanafanya. Nakumbuka nikielekeza mchezo mmoja National Theater, ambapo ilibidi nitupie mbali sehemu moja wapo. Haiwezekani ukawa shambani unafanya kazi na yale mavazi ya shambani ukaendelea mpaka mwisho onyesho, na onyesho linalofuata ni wewe unaanza ukiwa katika ofisi na tai na nini. Maana swali ni je, ulibadilisha nini yale mavazi? Kwa hivyo kuchanganya kwenda theater na kusoma michezo kadhaa ni jambo ambalo limenifaa sana. Sioni ni ajabu mtu kutoka Tharaka huwa anaweza kuandika mchezo na katika mchezo ambao unaigizika akaweza kuandika mchezo ambao unasherehekewa na watu kama mnavyofanya Kifo Kisimani na kadhalika.
Asante sana. Hilo swali lilikuwa la walio nyumbani vijana boku igwa nandi inadhura Kithaka. Haya. Kidogo tukae hapo kidogo kabla tuende kwa swali langu la pili. Ningependa tuwaingize wenzetu ambao wanaongea Kiingereza. Kwa hivyo swali hili ni tafadhali lijibu na Kiingereza afu turudi. La pili urudi kwa Kiswahili. Na la kwanza ni Professor Kithaka wa Mberia here. I didn't want to do we're starting with a bio and then we're moving into it. So we'll have small bits of information as we're moving on. So Professor Kithaka wa Mberia is not, the professor is not there for aesthetic purposes, like some people we know. But he is responsible for teaching and training a lot of practitioners and Kiswahili experts. He has taught at the University of Nairobi, and he's taught in many other places for many years. So the question for you, Professor, is in how many continents in the world have you taught? What were you teaching there, and how was the reaction?
Asante sana Ngartia. Mimi ni mwalimu wa chuo kikuu cha Nairobi, ambapo nilianza kufunza kabla ya karibu watu wote katika chumba hiki kuzaliwa.
Samahani mwalimu, waweza ukajibu kwa Kiingereza ili swali pekee?
Yeah, I teach the University of Nairobi, and I think I started teaching before virtually anybody in this room was born, except maybe the gentleman in glasses. But even for him, yeah, this one I've doubts. I think he was born. And the one behind him, no, that I'm not very sure, because I started teaching in 1981. I started teaching 1981, October. October 1981 is when I got into my first class.
Born before October 1981, please. Apart from Ms. Mwambikaigwa, we shall excuse you. Yes. All right.
So that's why I've been teaching for all these years, full-time. But I have also taught part-time at USIU. USIU is United States International University, Africa. I've also taught there on part-time basis. But I've also been lucky to teach in other places. I have taught in the US at Virginia State University as a Fulbright scholar in residence, meaning that I went there not to study. Most people understand Fulbrighters to be students, but I went there as a professor to teach at Virginia State University. Excuse me. So that then counts as the second continent. The third continent is Poland. I've taught at the University of Warsaw in Poland, in the capital Warsaw. But I've also taught in South Korea, in Yongin, for 2 years. So in total then, I have taught in 4 continents, or as we are taught some years back, we are told not to say on. That's what the British told us. So I've taught on 4 continents, or in 4 continents. But my writing reflects not only those 4 continents. Very soon I will be releasing an anthology called Rangi Waibuni. That means colors and broad. And it's about, I don't have a single poem about my experience in Kenya. It's about other places, because besides the places I've been for teaching, I've also visited some other places. I get very amused when the news is talking about Israel and US and Iran, because I've been to all those places. So when they say people are doing this in Tehran, I've been there. When they say the biggest nuclear material in Iran is in Isfahan, I've been there. When they're talking about people being very worried in Jerusalem, I've been there. When they're talking about people being worried in Tel Aviv, I've been there. In the US, I've been to roughly 12 to 13 states, literally. When I say that to Americans, sometimes they think this Mberia man is not telling the truth, but it's true. I've been to as far as, the US Virgin Islands. So which subjects do I teach there? At the University of Nairobi, my training is linguistics. And linguistics, ladies and gentlemen, is not what many people think it is. Because when you say you're a linguist, the next question usually is how many languages do you speak? Linguistics has absolutely nothing to do with speaking many languages. A man or woman who speaks many languages is called a polyglot. It's a polyglot is a man or woman who speaks many languages. A linguist is somebody who speaks properly just one language, but is trained to analyze human language material. And when we analyze, you don't have to know the language at all. All that you need is data, and your theory, and your methodology, and you don't need to be able to speak that language. My PhD thesis was titled Segmental Morpho-Phonology of Kithaka. None of my two supervisors knew a single word of Kithaka because it's not necessary. The thesis was in linguistics, and also I did dissertations, PhDs, and some of them, the current, I'm supervising two students. One of them has just completed his writing in Kikuyu. The closest I've come to Kikuyu is that my wife is a Kikuyu from Githongori. That's the closest contact I've had with the community. And so then, my area is linguistics. But outside, I think Americans have enough linguists, the Polish have enough linguists, the Koreans have enough linguists. So in the US, I taught Kiswahili and African literature. And that is what I taught in Poland, and that is what I taught in South Korea.
The people who fund travel influencers, I know you're either in the room or watching. Pesa ifikie mzee tafadhali. Turudi nyumbani, but you can answer the question in whichever language you choose. You've mentioned your coming anthology. Sasa turudi kwa vitabu ambavyo viko hapa. So I'll read them for you. Jeneza kutoka Saurabia, Mchezo wa Karata, Natala, Death at the Well. No idea what that is in. Oh, here we go. Kifo Kisimani. Okay, so Kifo Kisimani is the book that was mentioned as part of this conversation. It's translated in English, so you can have both and get them signed. Mwalimu, kuna vitabu vingine vyako ambavyo haviko hapa.
Vingi.
Haya, hizo asante. Kwa hivyo muulize mwalimu vitabu vingine ni gani. Swali lenyewe ni what gets first, are there any and I'm sorry for asking you this question as a writer, I apologize. Using the different themes that are in these things, is there a uniting factor that is connected to the writer? Na sasa Swahili kwa sababu nilifikiria kwa Kiswahili. Ni nini inakusukuma kama msanii kutumia kuongelea hoja ambazo ziko kwenye vitabu vyako?
Mimi nilizaliwa katika eneo ambalo si eneo tajiri, si eneo kama Nandi au Uasin au Kadheri au pengine Mathira. Ni eneo ambalo tulikuwa na changamoto. Maanake nimezaliwa katika eneo la Tharaka. Tharaka sisi hatukubahatika kupata, hatupati mvua nyingi. Mara nyingine tunapata mvua, lakini baada ya kuipata mvua kubwa haichukui muda mrefu bila eneo kukauka, na labda msimu unaofuata na mwingine hatupati mvua ya kutosha. Kwa hivyo nilikuwa na changamoto nikiwa mtoto, nikiwa kijana, na najua si mimi peke yangu, kuna wengine ambao wamekuwa na changamoto na nini. Na sidhani kama kwa wale ambao ni waumini, usindanganywe kwamba kuna watu ambao wameumbwa kwa maskini. Usindanganywe kwamba kutokuwa na mali ni kwa sababu umelaniwa na nini. Na naamini tofauti moja kubwa sana baina binadamu na wanyama ni kwamba binadamu ana uwezo wa kubadilisha mazingira yake, tofauti na wanyama. Na mfano ambao hupenda sana kutoa ni nyumbu. Nyumbu ni wild beast. nyumbu wa Masai Mara kule. Wale nyumbu wameliwa tangu zama za kale, kila mwaka wakivuka mto. Ile Kiingereza tunasema the Great Migration. Wale nyumbu huliwa kila mwaka kwa wingi, lakini hawana uwezo wa kujenga daraja, hawana uwezo wa kujiwezesha kuvuka bila kuliwa na mamba. Wewe na mimi tuna akili kwamba ukiona kuna mbu mahali karibu na unapokaa, ukiona watoto manake wanakuwa na ugonjwa wa malaria na nini, kwa vile tuna akili tunaweza kwenda tukaondolea mbali yale maji ili mbu asizaliane pale. Ikiwa kuna tatizo, na kuna matatizo makubwa sana katika Afrika, kuna matatizo makubwa katika Kenya, ikiwa kuna matatizo na hufanyi chochote kunapokuwa na tatizo, na kama binadamu hatufanyi chochote, tumejiteremsha katika kiwango cha mbuzi na pundamilia na nyumbu na ndovu. Na sitaki mimi kuwa mnyama, nataka kuwa binadamu, nataka kuimarisha binadamu wangu. Njia moja hapo kufanya hivyo ni kuchangia kubadilisha maisha. Nimesema nimefunza katika mabara 8: Afrika, Marekani, Poland, Ulaya na South Korea. Lakini hakuna jambo ambalo linaweza kunifanya kuhama. Sikizani vizuri. Ukanipa kazi Marekani, naweza kwenda nikaifanya mwaka moja au miaka miwili ngarejea hapa. Hakuna uwezekano wote duniani kuambiwa sasa wewe tunataka tukufanye kuwa mwanachama, tukufanye mwananchi wa Poland, Marekani, manake na wengine wote ambao familia yangu, binamu zangu, baba wadogo, wakubwa na nini, wataenda wapi? Nalosema ni kwamba kila ambacho kinanisukuma mimi ni kujaribu kuboresha Kenya, manake sitaki watu wengine waboresha Kenya kwa niaba yangu. Sisemi kwamba nitakufanya mambo makubwa, lakini lazima nichangie ili kwamba nikiishi Kenya bora, watoto wangu wakiishi Kenya bora, wajukuu wangu wakiishi Kenya bora, niwe najiambia hata mimi kwa kiwango kidogo nilichangia. Tunaelewana kwa hivyo siandiki kuna watu wanaandika labda kuna watu wanaandika kwa sababu ya pesa, kuna watu wanaandika kwa sababu ya maarufu na nini. Ningependa mimi kuchangia katika kuboresha nchi hii, manake wajua Ulaya ilikuwa na matatizo makubwa, ni watu waliboresha. Nilipokuwa kidato cha 5 na 6, mimi nilisoma historia ya Ulaya. Poland ilikuwa inaitwa the sick man of Europe. The sick man of Europe. Lakini sasa ukienda Poland, uchumi ni mzuri sana. Marekani mwanzo unajua yale zile filamu za zamani, ile the Wild West. Sasa watu wengine wamerekebisha, wametatua matatizo, tunakimbia kule. Na silaumu wale wanakimbia, msinielewe vibaya jamani Nimesema mimi. Sisemi kwamba Odhiambo au Nyawera asihamia Marekani. Siko sema hivyo mimi. Kama Mugaka anataka kwenda Ufaransa, Mugaka aende Ufaransa. Kwa hivyo maana sio yu yangu kuwekea watu masharti. Nikisema kuhama mimi nazungumza juu ya Kithaka Mberia. Kama kuna mwingine kwa hivyo maandishi yangu mengi ni kujaribu kuangalia kupiga kurunzi. Kurunzi ni torch. Ni kupiga kurunzi maovu na matatizo na nini, lakini si pigi kurunzi tu peke yake. Napendekeza hapa kuna uchafu, hapa kuna uoza, na uoza huu tunaweza ama kupunguza au kumaliza kwa namna hii na hii. Sasa yeye akisoma kile kitabu kuna uwezekano yeye pia akashiriki katika hayo mawazo ya kuondolea mbali ule uchafu, ya kutatua yale matatizo. Na baadhi ya watu wanafikiria kwamba fasihi haiwezi kubadilisha jamii. Fasihi inabadilisha jamii. Kuna bwana mmoja alikuwa anaitwa Okot Patek. Aliandika kitabu kinaitwa Artist the Ruler. Mambo mengi unayofanya maishani mwako, mambo mengi unayofanya ni kwamba hukumbuki. Mambo mazuri unayofanya labda ni kutokana na hadithi uliosikia ukiwa mtoto, ukaamua mimi nitakuwa nafanya mambo kama huyu mhusika. Mambo mengi. Ni kwamba ulisikia wimbo ukiwa mtoto, ukiwa kidato cha pili, ukiwa kidato cha tatu, na hata hukumbuki, lakini kuna mambo unayofanya sasa hivi ambayo yanatokana na msanii, mwanamuziki, hadithi, fasihi simulizi na kadhalika. Kwa hivyo hivi sasa kuna watu ambao wanazungumza juu ya Kifo Kisimani, kuna watu wengine ambao wanazungumzia vitabu vyangu vingine, na jambo hilo kwa hakika ni jambo la kuridhisha, maana inaonekana si kupoteza wakati bure. Watu wanasoma. Kuna kitabu ambacho kinaitwa Maua kwenye Jua la Asubuhi. Maua kwenye Jua la Asubuhi ni kuhusu mapigano ambayo yanaitwa mapigano ya kikabila. Mabibi na mabwana, hakuwi na mapigano ya kikabila katika Kenya. Kwa sababu gani nasema hivi? Angalia, ilikuwa ni mwaka wa 92 kulikuwa na uchaguzi. Kulikuwa ni 97 kulikuwa na uchaguzi. Kulikuwa ni 2007 kulikuwa na uchaguzi. Kama mapigano ya kabila, mbona makabila haya hayapigani miaka mingine? Mbona wanangojea mpaka uchaguzi wa karibu waanze kupigana? Kama mwaka wa 92 mapigano yalikuwa kwa sababu ya Wakikuyu kuchukiana na Wakalenjin. Wakikuyu na Wakalenjin walienda wapi? Mwaka wa 93, mwaka wa 94. Kama kweli ni Wajaluo ambao walikuwa na manake hawaelewani na manake wakisia wale na Wamasai na nini. Sasa mambo kama haya ndio naandikia ili tujielimishe, mimi nikiwepo, tujielimishe kwamba tusidanganywe. Hata wakati ambapo kulikuwa na manake uhasama, inaonekana kama kutoelewana baina ya Wakikuyu na Wajaluo. Ulikuwa kama wewe ni kijana Mkikuyu, ukipata msichana Nyeri, ukienda kule namna utapokelewa kama wewe ni kijana Mkikuyu. Nakwambia kweli. Nakwambia kweli. Wakati ambapo Kalenjin na nini tunaambiwa, lakini ukipata Chebet, maana wewe umetoka Kagioine Murang'a, au unatoka Kanyanyaine, ukampata Chebet kutoka Kaptagat. Ukienda kule, wale jamaa wazazi na jamaa wa Chebet maanake watakupokea kama wanapokea kijana Mkalenjin anaitwa Lagati. Sasa huu mchezo wangu Maua kwenye Jua la Asubuhi ni kuonyesha kwamba tusidanganywe, tuamuke akili ili tuone namna ambavyo tunaweza kurekebisha. Kwa nini mchezo unaitwa Maua kwenye Jua la Asubuhi? Nasema nini? Ua moja alipokonyi ua jingine urembo, ukaweka maua aina 3, aina 3, 4, 5 hapa, kila ua litabaki na urembo wake. Kwa hivyo mimi naangalia kila kabila katika Kenya ni ua la aina moja wapo. Kuna ua linaitwa Wakamba, kuna ua linaitwa Wakalenjin, kuna ua linaitwa Bryan na kadhalika. Kuna ua jingine linaitwa Wakristo, jingine ni Waislamu, wengine ni Wahindu. Kuna ua ambao linaitwa Wakatoliki, Waprotestanti na kadhalika. Sasa wakati mzuri sana wa kutazama maua ni asubuhi, ambapo hakuna mwangaza mkali wa kukuumiza na neno macho. Wakati mzuri ukitaka kuona urembo wa maua asubuhi ni wakati mzuri sana. Maana hakuna mwangaza mkali dhidi ya macho yako. Kwa hivyo ndio nasema Maua kwenye Jua la Asubuhi. Tuifanye Kenya kuwa ni bustani ya maua, ambapo Wakamba ya aina moja wapo, Wakuria aina nyingine ya ua, Wakristo na nini, na kisha tuitizame wakati wa asubuhi ili tufurahie urembo wa bustani ya maua. Ndio sababu kitabu kinaitwa Maua kwenye Jua la Asubuhi. Thank you.
I cannot add anything there. All I can do is pass my condolences to the people who are not privileged enough to speak this language. If you're not among the 200 million plus of us who speak Kiswahili, please adjust accordingly. And more. But please check how many people speak Kiswahili. I'll try to get like 2 gems for you, and then you'll follow Prof Badai. Number 1, he has a play that's not here called Maua kwenye Jua la Asubuhi, which is flowers in the morning light.
Sorry, sikumaliza dia swali. Vitabu vyangu ni vingi, ni vitabu 13. na haviko hapa, nimekuja na vichache tu, maanake nina diwani 7 za mashairi, diwani 7 za mashairi na michezo 6 ya kuigiza, na maanake ile itafungamana na lile swali ulisema. Nilikuwa naongea Kiswahili last time or in English? So my latest books, my latest 2 plays. One, my longest play is on a taboo subject. My longest play, which won Jomo Kenyatta Prize for Literature in 2022, is on incest that we are shying away from. The play is 124 pages. It's on incest. There's much more incest in this country. And don't blame me, don't say, how did you say that? And there were foreigners in the audience. So, oh, you know, you washed on that linen in public. Let's wash that in that linen in public today. So that we can be washing them regularly. That play is the second from the last. It's on incest, where after incest, you know, we are told do not disclose it because we are going to tarnish the name of the name of the family. The mother is persuaded, you know, after all, you talk about it. If the offender is the husband, you are going to ruin your marriage, or you know you are going to tarnish the name of the people in the church. People who go to the same church with you say, no, let's forget about it. But for how long shall we continue hiding the truth? I mean, trying to cover some wound. Your leg will rot with time. So you really better expose and find solution to that wound. The very last play is about our daughters who are being tortured, assaulted, and killed in the Arab world. And we are so easily deceived as Kenyans. We are told, no, you know, she just jumped from the balcony, or she committed suicide, etc., etc. She was sick. And you know, we have our embassies. You know what happens to our embassies? Anybody? Is there any Kenyan in this audience? You know, sometimes we take the very worst to those embassies. People who are being rejected by the people. You know, you try to vie for something, and you get maybe 500 votes. Another person gets 4,000 votes. You know what happens after the elections? If you listen, if you are friend to the powers that be, you know, before we know what's happening, the Kenyan ambassador to Washington, D.C., the Kenyan ambassador to Brussels, the Kenyan ambassador. So I'm not surprised that because it looks like other countries killing people in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in the United Arab Emirates, is like they're more careful, you know, with other nationalities. But Kenya, because we want investors to come in, you are told, oh, yeah, you know, she just killed herself, so it's on that. I want to preempt the joy, but actually she is killed by the wife of where she's working because the husband wants to assault her sexually. And when the wife comes and he finds them now with this struggle, she thinks that she's the one who has provoked. I'm using the one provoked, you know what I'm saying, because seduce is another strong one. I don't want to. And she is killed, and then she is brought back, on and on and on. So because those people, I am lucky to have some skills, writing skills, that I can write a play. Many of those ladies who go to work there, probably they might not be able to write this, you know, in an artistic way. So why don't I do it? Why don't I fight? You know, contribute to the fight for the, you know, for the voiceless. If you read my poetry, I've done so much on even things like prostitution, because I say, how come I've never heard of a teacher who goes to a school assembly in the morning, say Limurungaus, or Kagangaus, or Alansgaus, and it says, Gaus, I've really enjoyed teaching you for the last 10 years, but from next year in January, I'm changing my occupation, I'm changing my career, I will be a twilight woman in Mombasa. Meaning, people do not choose. It's you and I was pointing at myself, that push these people to that level. So do not listen to the bishop lambasting people who don't read the Bible or interpret it, etc., etc. On and on and on. And then, you know, we don't have many lawyers breaking banks. Is somebody who doesn't have a job, who has a child, who has eaten, who breaks the bank. You know, because of my teaching and theater, I think I better sit down. I forgot that.
Theater practitioners cannot resist the stage. We cannot resist the stage. Please, a round of applause for actor Kithaka Mberia.
So, I'm so sad because I think I'm going to confuse. You know, I'm going to mess up his project. So those are the kind of things that I do. A lot of children being mistreated. One of my finest poems is called Mimi Monica, and I'm just giving an account of Monica becomes a twilight woman in Mombasa. It starts in Nairobi here. Monica is so young, even her chest is flat, if you understand what I'm talking about. You know, her chest is almost like a football field, nothing. It's just flat. And she even doesn't have shoes. And you know what happens to some of the cars, some of the unique cars? You know, terrible things happen in this society. Some of them will actually fetch those girls, take them to some hotel, etc., you know, or home. You know, there's some homes that you can't just get like that. Say shower, So she narrates about this incident, why she's taken to this huge vehicle, and then she goes to somebody's house, and then she narrates about this thunderstorm, thunder, you know, tremor. When I write, my language I'm very, very careful. There's none of my book can you read and say, no, I can't leave it on the table here because my young daughter or my sister, nothing like that. So even when I talk about matters, sexuality, extreme language. So then she narrates this tremor, the tremor, and then it changes, and then of course she graduates from one stage to the other, By the poem ends with her in Mombasa. I don't use names. So, she just talks this city of neon lights and crows, and she can see, and she mentioned the stars and bangles. You know, Mombasa is quite popular with American sailors, you know, including killing, of course, I think Monica in I don't remember the year, and the sailor went scotch-free. Even the mother couldn't believe it. The mother couldn't believe it because she actually, the man admitted in court that he had killed her, but you know what the court said? You just go back, you just go away and be of good behavior. The man's name is Armstrong. So you just Google Armstrong's case. So those are the kind of things that then I do. I say, why don't I make my voice heard, and someone might listen. Somebody else, another one. You talk about it. You read Kifo Kisimani. You talk to your sister. You read it in school. Your sister is not in school. She's much older. You tell her about Kifo Kisimani. She speaks it. You tell your mom about Kifo Kisimani. Your dad about Kifo Kisimani. Your daughter about Kifo Kisimani. On and on and on. And it's friends. Or you read about this Monica. Monica being killed. Even the lady was killed in Nyanyuki. I think even the British might be more concerned than us Kenyans. You know, I mean, they feel embarrassed about it. On and on and on. So we are in a country which is not contrary to what we hear. This is not our country, and our times are not that rosy. And somebody has to do something about it to be a human being. Otherwise, if we don't do anything about it, we will not be any different from the elephants of Amboseli and from rhinos of Meru National Park.
Do something about it. We're going to switch. I promised you questions, and we're running out of time, so I will let you have your questions. There's one gem from before that I don't think really landed, but Mwalimu did say, let Susanna aende Champs-Elysees, aende kila mahali anahitaji. But you have to be rooted here before you make that decision. And I think we can also extrapolate the last answer he's given us. I think it also fits discussions. Speaking of washing dirty linen in public and wounds, I think it also speaks a lot to things that are happening right now. I see people in the audience here, especially women, who've been talking about femicide and rape culture in Kenya for the longest time, right? And every year, it's the same conversation over and over until something fatal or tragic happens, and then now it's a national crisis. So we need a national prayer or whatever. So there's that on that end, and I think that's part of speaking about it, because someone once asked me a question that just crumbled all my toxic masculinity, and they were like, I know within each friend group I have, I know a girl who's been sexually assaulted. How many men do you know in your friend groups who've sexually assaulted women? And I didn't know any. And so the question was, so who assaults these women, right? So there's that. And specifically, the use of rape and mass rape as a political weapon, which we saw last week. I think we can extrapolate all that within that conversation. And then the challenge I'm taking myself as an artist and as a citizen is the way I've understood it from Mwalimu is, what is my front line? Like, if Mwalimu ameshikilia hapa na siwezi kuandika kwa Kiswahili jinsi ambavyo Mwalimu anaweza, labda nikianza kazi sahi, nikifika miaka yake nitakuwa karibu, right? So what can I do then that Mwalimu cannot do, right? And what can you do that I can't do, and LSK Faith cannot do, or all that? All right, so now to your questions. Tafadhali kumbuka, we agreed. It's questions, not comments. We'll take 3. They're all to Mwalimu, but nitasaidia kuzikumbuka. So we'll take all the 3 questions, and then we'll answer them, all right? I don't know if you have a mic. Oh, so hands up. I'm gonna close my eyes. It's fast come, fast serve. So 3 hands up. I'm gonna pick one from this side, one from this side, and one arbitrary in the middle. Muko sawa? Ready? I hope their hands up, Aki. None. Oh my God. Oh, there we go. No, that's why. Oh, yay. Question number 1. No, not yet. We're going to close it. So if you have a question, this is the moment to raise your hand. All right. Going twice. We have 2. Going thrice. Thank you.
Oh, zote mbili. So, my question for Prof is, you said that Fasihi, as we're all taught, usually if you do 844, we're all taught Fasihi, Simulizi, and things like that. However, there's a certain torture that I wonder if authors usually mean to inflict on the children reading their books. I did Kifo Kisimani in high school. It was a wonderful book. I learned many Kiswahili insults. When askari watatu, yonda, baradhuli, it was fantastic. However, the way our teachers teach us these texts it turns into torture instead of enjoying the literature. I wonder if you teach the Kiswahili text or the African literature text in a way that makes it more accessible and enjoyable for people who want to do or continue to enjoy literature outside of school? Just because a lot of Kenyans, when they finish high school, that's the end of reading, especially things like plays and poetry. So I was wondering, in your teaching practice, do you take into account the torture for the students who have to read the books and enjoy them, hopefully? I hope that's, yeah.
Do you remember? Yeah, no, but remind me. Yeah, okay.
Good afternoon, Professor. It's such a pleasure to just learn more about your work and hear from you first-handed. I recently listened to a podcast where an American actor named Ben Vereen, who's been around a long time, he's acted in plays and won Tony Awards. Someone asked him what's the greatest value of his work, what is he valued the most? And he said employment, meaning that as an artist, your work may be appreciated and enjoyed, but if you can't make a living, if you can't live off of your art, it loses some of its potential long-term benefit to you as a human. Maybe not as the artist, but as the human who has to provide for their children and their families. And I'm curious for you as an artist, as a professor, as a writer who has had their works in multiple languages and multiple places, what for you at this point in your career is rising as the most valuable part of your work? Is it the scope, reaching new audiences and new voices? Is it speaking to your own country people and making sure they have, you're impacting them? So I'm just curious, at this stage for you, what's your highest value as a writer, artist, thinker, professor? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And hi, Prof. and Ngartia. It's good to be here and to hear your views on your writing experiences. Prof, I'd like to hear from you. When you say you started teaching all the way in 1981, I am...
81.
81, yes. I'm assuming that's in the University of Nairobi, and you taught all the way, but also took some time out to teach in other countries outside the world. Now coming back, where can you situate our current education system? What do you make of it? And just would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Sorry, Ngartia, can I ask the last question?
So, Anyiko, I'm going to give you one of my questions. So ask it, but that means I take one of mine off there. So proceed.
Okay. I wanted to say that on the program, I read that there could be a possible revival of Kifo Kisimani. And I wanted to ask Professor, have many of your books made it on stage? And how does it feel for you to have a book like that book come back to stage now? And did you ever think that your work could be this relevant many years after?
Let the child ask the question as well. Asante sana. Actually, that's what I was taking the mic for. So, Mwalimu, shika.
The first question the lady sits and over there. Let me begin by saying that that torture from your teacher is not embedded in my books. I don't embed any torture in my books. As a matter of fact, one attribute of my books is to ensure that I write in such a way that you enjoy the language, but without necessarily going for the dictionary every time in a while. That's a problem that we have in soil literature. Now I'm talking as a critic. One of the disappointing things about soil literature is where people think that using very big words is what makes people think that you have a good command of language. If you read Shakespeare's books and you are forced to check a word in the dictionary, it's not because Shakespeare used very difficult English, it's because of the passage of time. Good writers do not require you to use the dictionary. You don't need a dictionary to read Achebe's Things Fall Apart, no longer it is. You don't need a dictionary to read Nguga Thiong'o's The River Between. You don't need a dictionary to read Okot Patek's Song of the Winnow, on and on and on. And you don't need a dictionary to read Kithaka Mberia's books. Certainly not Kifo Kisimani. So the torture, the source of the torture is elsewhere, not here. Now, and when I teach, I saw a number of, I think I saw some 2 or 3 students former students, anybody whom I taught here, you know that? Tell them that sometimes when I was shooting the time, even after I was shooting the time, people don't get out of my classes. You know why? Because where are you going? Because there's more fun in the class than outside. I'm telling you. Ask her. Ask her. I mean, sometimes I see that we have gone something like 20 minutes over the time. And I say, why did you tell me? But people are there. Unless you have a class, because if you are going to look for joy to laugh, where are you going? The laughter is here. So that's what I try to teach in an interesting way. I mean, I'm benefiting a bit, of course, from my experience with the language as I use it in literature, theater, etc. So one of the most exciting things that I get when I teach is when a group of students come to my office to say, Professor, are you teaching us in another course? And when I say no, because in the past, I've had students who are not registered in my courses coming to sit in my class to laugh, literally. You just ask my students, what is there to keep on laughing? Say, why don't you come? Come over, come to class. And I will allow you to do that. Now, the man with more brain cells, Swinge, remind me the second question. The lady there?
So the second question was, what is writing as the most valuable part of your work at this stage, or the highest value?
As a writer, if you consider yourself to be a good writer, you don't write just for a village, or a county, or a country. So my books are very useful to Kenyans, but actually they are not written only for Kenyans. This is why I've been alerted that this book can never be a set book in Tanzania. Because when it's read in Tanzania, they don't see Kenya, they see Tanzania. That's the beauty. I was thinking about trying to see whether it can become a set book, but somebody said, no, this cannot. I don't think that in Uganda, they will be very, very excited having Kifo Kisimani because they have Bokono in the form of Museveni. When the play that I sent, it's called Maua kwenye jua la asubuhi. Political demagoguery. Maua kwenye jua la asubuhi. When I gave somebody from Cameroon to read, he said, but he couldn't understand. I mean, this book is about Cameroon. About Cameroon. On and on and on. So in literature then, I think one of the finest things in terms of feelings is to know that you have written a book that speaks, that is not imprisoned in terms of space and time. That when somebody in Papua New Guinea, what's the book that you gave me, Geneza? When did I do with it? It's right here.
There we go.
I didn't guess, when somebody reads this book in Canada, although there are no Canadians working in the Arab world, I think you read it in Ontario and you actually get annoyed with the Arab world. Because the human predicament, human feelings are the same. If you write a book on sexual assault here, and it really touches a nerve to somebody in Papua New Guinea, in US, in Belgium, in Germany, then of course you have succeeded. So what I try to do is write books that will speak to humanity. My first two books, before they were even read by many people in Kenya, they were already part of a PhD thesis, University of Moscow. Before Kifo Kisimani became a set book here, it had been studied in the University of Naples, and a student got a master's, analyzing this, on and on and on and on. So then, sometimes when my play is put on stage, people are interested in finding out, Professor, you must have made a lot of money. when the book is a set book, Professor, you must have made a lot of money. For me, what I really enjoy, going to my, sitting in the audience, looking at my fellow members of the audience, is to see that the message has gotten across. There's a group that wants to do Kifo Kisimani, and I told them that if you do Kifo Kisimani, and several people are not shedding tears, forget it. The director has failed. Absolutely. When this Geneza was performed in Alupe University on the 8th of March, for the first time in my life, I find myself weeping tears, literally. And actually some students noticed it. The message is mine. By the way it was brought out was so powerful that even for me, the author, even for me as the author, I had to know that. But somebody also read it. I mean, another person read it and is so annoyed that he wants to buy other books. So the joy, it's not so much the money. Don't get me wrong. I need money as much as other people. I do. I couldn't buy myself another pair of shoes and a jacket. And so I need money. But that is not why I write. Because if that's why I write, I would not have written 7 anthologies of poetry, free verse. Because free verse is not a darling of the education system, but 7 of them. And without trying to sound like I'm bragging, this is my year. This is the year of the book. This came out in April. I have, by the time the clock strikes midnight on December 31st, 5 other books will be out. No, find out. Ask him, because besides this one, 4 others are at such a stage that I'm not changing even, that totally, some of them are even typeset. It's just the last one, where I'm doing some corrections. The last one is satire. The entire book, from the beginning to the end, is satire. It's called I Saw Communist. Niliwaona communisti. And I'm trying to account, for instance, why the Chinese population is the smallest in the world. Because communists eat people. Communists enjoy eating people. I mean, in China, you give birth, and it's all waste of time. There's fatigue for 9 months. Because the baby, we all been done, were beaten by communists. And the Chinese are some of the most, interpret what I'm saying from a satirical point of view, where I use irony, exaggerate, that the Chinese are still living in grass-thatched houses. On and on and on. And of course, I'm thanking Americans. In fact, I'm suggesting that every American country should build a huge monument for Americans. Because why it's not for America and their CIA, most of us will be eaten by communists. Because, the communists were targeting us in the 60s, etc., etc. You remember the Cold War. So the entire book is on is along those lines. So if you see a huge monument to America in Cameroon, you know it's because without Americans, Cameroonians would have ended up in the stomachs of the communists. Oh, no. So that is the last book that will probably publish this year. And I read them in a manner that I'm not just talking to Kenyans. I'm just assuming, of course, an American reading that book, of course, is literature. I don't have anything against Americans at all. Don't get me wrong. It's not like if I meet an American in a dark alley, I would knife him. No. Not at all. That's what I'm saying. It's just communication in a particular way, because up to now we haven't taken satire very, very, very seriously. And I try to experiment, not only in terms of, I try to increase my range of themes, as well as technique, so that the play that won in the drama festival, universities, this year, drama festival, universities, universities and Kiswahili is a play which has already been, a book that has been typeset. It's called Mbuju Ngamba Yazagana. You go around times, you go around that times, like my student here, if you go around that Mbuju 7 times, you change, you become a Jime, you know, with the muscles and an ugly beard. The gentleman here in glasses, you go around this bubble tree 7 times, you become such a sweet-looking Nancy, you know, Irene. It's about that.
Yes.
And on and on and on. So I try to have this huge range in terms of themes, but the main theme, of course, being how do we improve ourselves, you know. We are not meant to suffer, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, yeah.
Mwalimu, samahani, naona inabidi tufukuzwe. I see why people do not leave your classes. Book bank, please, we need this space, Lit Fest. Mwalimu akuje to hang out. Just give us the space and then assign people elsewhere. We still had 2 questions, Mwalimu atutazijibu sasa hivi. First of all, because one came from your student, kwa hivyo anajua jinsi ya kukupata. Na kuna
I want outside, eh?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyiko, I'm going to assign you Mwalimu as well to get an answer for that directly. However, for the benefit of the people here, I'm going to say it in 15 seconds. There is a stage revival of Kifo Kisimani. It's also Death at the Well, same thing. It's happening this August, the first weekend of August. I believe it's the 2nd. In Loresho at the Giant Bavern Auditorium. It is in Kiswahili, but I believe that there are plans to do a translation, and hopefully, if everyone shows up for the first run, maybe figure out a countrywide tour. So be on the lookout for that information. I know some of the people involved are in the room. I don't know where they are. My eyes are going. But follow a page called Hive of the Arts, or Hive of Theatre, on Instagram and Twitter, and you'll get all the details. Or you can see me Kando, or you can see Mwalimu Kando, or one of the people I'll point out eventually. So that was the last question. Tafadhali mtafute Mwalimu. I want to wrap this up. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you NBO Lit Fest for doing this. Na kwa kutuletea Mwalimu, imekuwa miaka mingi. Please. Yes. Mwalimu, asante sana kwa kuwa hapa. Asante for your generosity in your time and all that. And for not embedding torture in that book, because now we know, walimu ndo tunaendea, you are safe. Walk around the way you want, Mwalimu. Uko sawa. And so thank you so much. Please be there for the show on 2nd of August. All the books will be there, including zile ambazo Mwalimu amesahau. He will also be signing. We'll find him a helper to hold his hand. And I'd like to leave the last word to Mwalimu. Kwa hivyo Mwalimu, ujumbe kwa wanao tukimaliza.
Do not, even for a moment, underrate yourself. You know, when people ask me, how come you have written so much? I tell them that I consider myself a man of average intelligence. What I have, more than many other people, is abundant self-confidence. That's why I can even choose target in doing 6 books in a year. Now, do not think that you are just, I'm just so-and-so. You can do a lot. Remember what Wangari Maathai told us? You know, there's a story about the hummingbird where the forest was burning. The forest was burning, and all those big animals, the hippo, the elephant, the rhino, say, but what, I'm just one animal. This is a big forest. What can I do? But there's this very little bird that kept on going to the river, to the source of water, and fetching, getting some water in its wings, and to come and flop them. Use that example. You can make a difference. You can change your boyfriend. Yes, you can change your boyfriend. You can change your boyfriend. You can change your boyfriend by saying, darling, I know you love football, but can we go and watch Kifo Kisimani? and you can change your wife. you know, by saying, sweet Eileen, why don't you read this book, or why don't you do this? Why, sweet Eileen, why are you so much against the people who are routing, who are protesting? They are not as bad as they are painted by the Kenyan government. On and on and on. And finally, if you come across somebody from Kiambu Road, you know what I mean. The other one, and you just tell them that, oh, you know what? I met Kithaka Mberia, such a harmless person. Yes, so.
And Ngartia too, Ngartia as well. Kiambu Road and Marurui, please.
That do not listen to anybody giving you misleading information. The guy is so sweet, you know.